a world of deceit. Telling the truth is a revolutionary act. It's the David Knight Show.
As the clock strikes 13, it's Tuesday, the 30th of June, year of our Lord 2026. Well, today we're going to talk about a lot of different issues. We're going to begin by talking about what happened with the Supreme Court. Some very interesting decisions there that had little to do with the Constitution or the rule of law, quite frankly. It's a lot of politics that's there, but we're going to talk also about the data centers. Folks, we've got to do something about these data centers, as many have pointed out. It doesn't matter if this thing is built next to you. It's going to be spying on you, controlling your life. The worst aspects of these data centers are going to be there for every one of us, whether or not it's even in our state. So it's not simply about these issues. So we're going to take a look at how this is exploding, comparing it to the old NSA data centers that William Binney was warning us about over a decade ago. Yeah, stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, of course, the Supreme Court has released a lot of decisions in the last few days. They've got some more that they're still considering. One of them, very important, is a contest about parental rights. And we've seen in Brazil that we just had some parents. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I think we've got a graphic here somewhere where the government has jailed parents. They're over homeschooling. And so now here in the United States, we've got some issues in some of the states where they want to come after parents because they have gaslit their kids into thinking that they're in the wrong body. Thank you, Lance. Parents sentenced to prison in Brazil after excluding gender content in the homeschool curriculum. Yeah, where's all this stuff coming from? Quite frankly, the leaders in all this stuff were coming out of Israel. They had the first pride areas, and they were the ones who have been pushing this kind of stuff in the institutions. And that is the Marxist tactic, to march through these institutions. That's what Antonio Gramsci, the founder of the Italian Marxists, did. And this is the way that they've done it. They've marched through the institutions, whether it is entertainment or news or universities, and they have pushed this poison. That really is what this is. So that's still upcoming, and we don't have a decision on that, but we do have some other decisions. And you got people on the right, and Trump are cheering about his newfound power that's been handed to him by the Supreme Court. It's not really a newfound power. It's something that I think the executive always had. It doesn't make any sense to have an executive branch if he can't execute people in terms of firing them. How do you control the employees if you don't have that ultimate weapon? And so what they said was that, yes, he can fire whoever he wishes in the executive branch. However, this particular case about the Federal Reserve, the one where they're coming after Lisa Cook and he wants to kick her out, they said, you can't do that. Why is that? Because the Federal Reserve is not under the president. It's not a government institution, as we always say. The Federal Reserve doesn't have any reserves, and it is not the federal government. So just underscoring that yet again, the Supreme Court made it clear he cannot fire Lisa Cook. But he is cheering the fact that he's got newfound power. And he is always looking for ways to consolidate power. That is the big issue. It wouldn't be an issue for Trump to be able to fire employees in the bureaucracy. As a matter of fact, he ought to eliminate the entire bureaucracy. But I guess if you can't get Congress to withdraw the funding for, let's say, the EPA, just pick one of them, right? You could just fire everybody in the EPA and the money could still be there. There's just nobody to do anything about it. So that'd be an interesting tactic to do. But of course, he's not going to do that. And the leftists are very much afraid. It's a look at the power that he's got. And he's cheering about this because that is one thing that Trump is always been pushing. That's why he is an what do we call him? Founder, right? He's the exact opposite of the founding fathers. They did not want to have consolidation, what we call centralization of power. They did everything they could to try to avoid that. They understood what Lord Acton said. He said, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. You get absolute power by consolidation, by centralization is what we say. They talked about consolidation. Everything that Trump has done is about consolidation of power. He waves a magic wand of saying, we got an emergency, and now he can do anything he wishes. And so this is feeding his lust for power. The leftists are concerned about that. The right is cheering this. Do you realize what's going to happen when you wind up with a king in office and the Democrats get in office? They will eventually. You'll get a Democrat, you'll get a socialist. As a matter of fact, the Democrats are fighting amongst themselves because they're turning so hardcore towards socialism. And so even the Democrats are scared. As I've said many times, the Democrats have become the Marxists of my youth. And the Republicans have become the Democrats of my youth. Take a look at Trump, for example. Well, the Supreme Court also denied Trump's appeal of the $5 million judgment in favor of E. Jean Carroll for sexual activities, shall we say, of Donald Trump. And Alan Dershowitz also lost in the Supreme Court. That was, I think, my favorite decision. They refused to hear his appeal of a lower court decision. They ruled in favor of, I think it was CNN. It was a $300 million lawsuit that he had for defamation. When you're talking about Alan Dershowitz, anything negative you say that he would call defamation is actually definition of who he is. This guy is absolutely reprehensible on the wrong side of every issue. Absolutely totalitarian. He doesn't want to have any free speech. And he's out there threatening people all the time. Remember during the COVID lockdown, 2020, he goes, I would argue that the government has the right to come to your house and drag you out of your house and forcefully stick a needle into your arm and inject you. I would argue that before the Supreme Court, and I would win. Because Dershowitz always thinks he's going to win, right? That's why this is such a great decision. It's great to see this arrogant, litigious creep go down in flames, especially at the Supreme Court. So that's what happened to Dershowitz. Just recently, he was in the news because there was some guy who was rabidly Zionist, and he goes into a restaurant or something, and they said, well, we're not going to serve you because of what you have said, pushing genocide and murder in Israel. And he said, he got very upset. So Alan Dershowitz is defending him. He's saying, wait a minute, that's discrimination against my religion. You know, the religion, the guy that supposedly supports religion and conscience, when he said, we'll have the government drag you out of your house and stick a needle in your arm. No, he doesn't support that in principle. He says Zionism is religion. Well, he's right about that. He absolutely is right about that. It is a statist religion. And so as he was in the area about this lawsuit, had people running up to him, heckling him, calling him a pedophile, and he's out there saying, let me get your picture so I can sue you. God, this guy is absolutely reprehensible. The defender of Jeffrey Epstein, literally in court, Dershowitz. So now he's lost. Well, we're going to get into some other news. I just wanted to cover those headlines, basically, of the Supreme Court. There's no reason really to go into their arguments because arguments are just garbage. But before we do, I want to mention that, as I said, this is the last day of June, and a producer, listener, Anthony, has graciously offered to match funds today for contributions. And we are below 3/4. So today is the last day, and we got a long ways to go. So I'd really appreciate what Anthony's doing, and really appreciate the support, voluntary support that we get from the listeners. Let me thank those who have, over the last week and a half, who have donated on Zelle as well as on Cash App. We have Michael P., Kelly K., Daryl L., Brandon M., Craig M., Gregory I., Susan L. several times, Raymond G., Sally D., Lois I., Susan L. again, Scott L., Mark Y., Michael P., Matthew M., Brandon M., Amy B., Susan L., Michael P., Ronald H., and Joseph R. Thank you so much. And as a matter of fact, Michael P. writes, Lance is killing it. Absolutely he is, and I really do appreciate his contributions. And he does a lot of contributions, not just on the air, but behind the scenes as well. So really appreciate what Lance is doing as well. And on Cash App, I want to thank Lambert W., Jeffrey A., Michael B., Robert A., Dylan L., Daniel F. Thank you so much. And this is, I think, the first contribution from Dylan L. He said, when he sent it, he said, far too late when he put it on there, but new supporter. So thank you very much, Dylan. I appreciate it. Never too late. Here we are, last day of the month. And so, again, Anthony has agreed to match funds today. So thank you very much, Anthony. Let's talk about, I want to pick up where I left off.
Thank you, I'm Marty, for that generous tip.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. That just came in. Thank you very much. I'm Marty. I appreciate that. We got a comment here from SoloCat 1980. When demons control the government, sexual perversion enforcement is what you get. Yeah, that's right. Handy said, I've wondered how on earth they'll get people to abandon the rural areas and consolidate them in the 15-minute cities. Well, you just take away their water and power. Well, that's a good point. It's a good point. And again, as bad as these data centers are, and they are bad, when you're talking about the noise, the constant generators, because remember, Trump said about the generators,
I told them that what I want you to do is build your electric generating plant right next to your plant as a separate building, connected. And they said, wow, you're kidding. And I said, no, I'm not kidding. You don't have to hook into the grid, which is old and, could be taken out. If it's taken out, they wouldn't have any way to get any electricity.
Yeah.
So
he's not going to do anything to defend the grid.
Allow them to go on a very rapid basis to build their plant, build the electric generating plant. They can fuel it with anything they want, and they may have.
And again, Trump absolutely does not care about you and I. He only cares about the money that his mafia family can make and about the technocrat donors that control him. So he says to them, you need to make your own power plants because the grid's falling apart anyway. Who knows? We might have some terrorist attacks because I'm starting wars with everybody. I'm making enemies across the globe. We've got all these people coming to the United States for the World Cup, and they're saying, well, America's not as bad as I thought it was. It's not as bad as Trump, folks. I don't know how this guy gets in power and stays in power. Well, I do know. Satan says, I have been given authority to hand power to anyone I choose. And so I would imagine that the person that he would want to be there the most would be Donald Trump. And so there he is. So while we're talking about yesterday, I was in the middle of talking about the different meetup sites where people can meet other people who understand what's going on with the vaccination and the bigger picture. As they said, this one site that was called Unjected, instead of injected, it's Unjected. And the guy who was one of the executives there they interviewed for the article said, a lot of people think that we're all about MAGA. Nothing could be further from the truth. We understand who created this jab. And Trump is the father of the jab. So these people understand really what's going on. That's a good site. And of course, it was kicked off of Apple, taken off, started by Google. And Google and others put pressure on Apple. And they said, yeah, we don't like some of the comments that people are making about shedding or some other things. So we're going to take that off. They've now restored it because what they did was they came back and said, well, we will moderate some of these comments. And that appeased them enough that now it is back onto the phone apps that are available there. But there's some other ones as well that I didn't get a chance to mention. Unjabbed.net, unjuiced.date, novax.singles, and pureblood.dating. So just keep all of those in mind. They've targeted people who choose not to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. Many users say they have received some vaccinations during childhood, but they didn't get the mRNA thing. So they talked about it. They said, well, we're frustrated with the standard dating sites because it was very common to see somebody put things at the bottom of their profile like no anti-vaxxers or no conspiracy theorists. They said, you're not going to find that here. And that's, again, indicative of the intolerance of these people who demand that you not be given information, you not be informed, and your consent doesn't matter to them, just like Alan Dershowitz. They want to drag you out of your house and forcefully inject you in the arm. And so you can talk about everything else. You can talk about your religious preferences. You can talk about smoking and drinking and all your vital statistics, height, weight, and things like that. But don't you dare talk about something as to which really does indicate discernment. That's what these people are pointing out. Common concern voiced on unjabbed and unjected is the belief, says Washington Post as a tip to their sponsors, it's unfounded that vaccinated people can pass COVID toxins to unvaccinated people through physical contact. Yeah, think about that. This is the state of virology, where they've got everybody so freaked out that they're wearing masks and wearing gloves. And again, they tell you with their quote unquote science of virology, the size of these particles. And yet, and there's not a chance that if that were true, that you'd be able to stop it with a cloth mask. And so these people are running around trying to avoid any cooties that might be floating through the air. But everything is contagious except for the mRNA spike. We do know there is an mRNA spike. We don't know if there is a virus. As a matter of fact, I don't believe that there is at all. But there is a spike. But don't worry. That can't be transmitted in any way, shape, or form. How exactly do you know that? Did you test that? No, they didn't test that. So anyway, the founder of Unjected said that she got into this because she had been harmed by the Gardasil vaccine. And folks, this is the first place that we saw politics, big pharma, pushing this kind of stuff. And that was in Texas with Rick Perry. That was the first place where they said, you're going to have to get a Gardasil injection in order to go to school. And this is for very young children. You didn't even have to be sexually active. And they wanted it to prevent cervical cancer, but they're giving it to boys as well. Yeah, that's the science behind all this stuff. Talk about theories. They've got theories out the wazoo. So she said that her symptoms after getting that Gardasil injection were things like tachycardia, rapid heartbeat. She said, I was debilitated after having this vaccine. I became a prisoner of war to the pharmaceutical industry. And they have their various disclaimers saying, oh no, Gardasil is 100% effective and safe and blah, blah, blah. Don't believe a word of it. It's simply a word for their sponsors. She came up with the idea for Unjected after talking to her godmother who had been swiping through Tinder profiles. One man had an image of himself with a mask on. Another had written that any of his matches must be vaccinated. I guess maybe you could put at the bottom of your antenna, please, no mentally ill, ignorant hypochondriacs. Don't contact me if you're like this guy. It is, after being contacted by Bloomberg, Apple was pressured to remove them from social media, but they've now reinstated them after they have done some moderation on comments. You know, we got to be censored in order to be allowed to be on the internet. So Unjected plan to host an in-person event in December. They fielded thousands of hate messages and threats, and they sent them to the Washington Post. So the Washington Post knows that these were real. So who is the dangerous people here? Who are the crazy, delusional conspiracy theorists? Who are the violent, hateful people? It's not these people. It's the people that the Washington Post is feeding all this fear and paranoia about. So they wound up having to cancel the date, but they at that venue. They got canceled, but they were able to go hold it somewhere else. And they had hundreds of people who showed up. They said people who are anti-vaxxers put people and actual disabilities, people who are immunocompromised, in danger, said one of the people who was trying to defend this action. They're still selling the Fauci lies. Prove it. If this is science, you shouldn't have a problem proving it. But they never do, of course. So, they end this article by talking about a couple who met through this dating site and have gotten married, had a child, and they end this very last one, this Washington Post thing. These people never give up. They're clueless. She declined to say whether or not the couple had plans to vaccinate their child. Should I guess? They went to a lot of trouble to do this. And Washington Post still like, well, I just can't imagine anybody wouldn't vaccinate their kid, you know. By the way, what you really need to do after you have your kid, don't vaccinate them with the pharmaceutical injections, but vaccinate them against the kind of lies that come out of the Washington Post. And I mean that. I mean, when you talk to your kids, you need to present the lies that they're going to be hit with in life in general. Whether or not they go to school, they're going to get hit with this stuff. You need to debunk these lies for them. Don't ignore them. You know, it's not enough just to tell them what is true. You need to tell them what is false as well. Well, I wanted to get back to this primarily because I wanted to get back to this little clip here about ivermectin and friendly bacteria. You know, we're seeing this over and over again. We are seeing these different uses for ivermectin. And now a lot of people are saying, you know, it's been so effective. This is something that was anti-parasitic. It's been so effective in so many different things. I wonder just how widespread the parasites are, right? They want to discount the fact that there are parasites within us and other issues, and yet they want to push something that they can't see and can't measure and can't isolate, a virus, but they'll ignore the parasites. And so the question is, how exactly does this work? Is it parasites that are wearing down your body or so that your body can't fight off cancer, or are they causing the cancer in some way or the other? But the reality is that, hey, it works, whether or not you have a theory for it. So I wanted to play this for you.
8 months to publish. If you follow the bifidobacteria like I did, you will notice, and we did notice anyways, that vitamin C actually increases bifidobacteria. This is why vitamin C is important when you take care of viruses, and you know you've all experienced taking vitamin C for a cold. Well, we published this data where we showed vitamin C, if we give it to patients before and after, it increased the bifidobacteria. Ivermectin was also an interesting drug because ivermectin, we noticed, also increased the bifidobacteria within 24 hours of taking it. Why ivermectin? If you look at what ivermectin is, it is a fermented product of a bacteria that is similar to bifidobacteria. In fact, they're in the same continent of microbes. They're like sisters, brothers in the microbiome. So I published, I knew that ivermectin increased bifidobacteria, but I said, I can't go out there and start publishing that. That's going to be too controversial. So I published a hypothesis that maybe what I was observing on the front line treating patients with COVID, noticing that their oxygen saturation was increasing from ivermectin, was basically maybe ivermectin increased bifidobacteria. The hypothesis on ivermectin was the most read hypothesis in the pandemic and was retracted after 8 months of being on. When we cannot make a hypothesis, this is not science.
You're not allowed to question what they say, right? Skepticism is not allowed. And this is, I said this over and over and over again during 2020. You know, the science is settled. I said, that's never true. It was never true about climate, quote unquote, science either. This was the scientific method that Francis Bacon created. He said he did it to stand against the idea that we're going to go with whatever academia and authorities say. He said, no, that is not going to be the standard. It's not going to be because somebody is from some institution that everybody reveres, because they've got titles that have been handed to them. No, we're going to do a scientific method, which is basically prove it. Show this. Be able to repeat what you say that you observe. These people have thrown that out the window. Fauci is not Mr. Science. He is not science. He is anti-science. And as she pointed out, people were looking at this and saying, why is this so effective? It's not a question as to whether or not it's effective. They just got to come up with a theory. But the reality is that these things, these treatments that are out there, talking about vitamin C. Why is it that vitamin C, if the cold was because of a virus, I don't think it is. And again, the Baileys talk about in their book, The Last Pandemic, they're talking about the fact that in the UK for 45 years, they had a cold house where they were doing everything they could to find out how a cold was contagious. What is the mode of transmission? And they were unable to transmit it. There's something else that is going on. And so I think what is happening here, whatever is happening, ivermectin is either there's something that they haven't identified that ivermectin takes out, or like vitamin C, perhaps, maybe it is building up your body in a way that needs to be built up. That's what she's talking about that particular type of probiotic that was there. Joe Tippins said, now that was Dr. Zakaria that was talking there. She's a medical doctor. Joe Tippins said, well, Dr. Brian Ardis has pointed out 70% of all autoimmune, 50% of all cancers are misdiagnosed. He said 70% of all autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, fibromyalgia, and other diseases, MS, are caused by parasites, he says, not by your immune system attacking itself. So that's an interesting point of view. Now, again, I don't know if he's proved that, but again, that's his hypothesis. But you're not allowed to have a hypothesis if it goes against the business model of the pharmaceutical industry. Every single research study showing ivermectin curing cancer and autoimmune disease, well, it's because ivermectin kills the parasites, he says, not the cancer. The $1 trillion chemoradiation cartel is poisoning patients with toxic sludge that kills everything, when a cheap, safe antiparasitic could end the nightmare. And so I think there's a lot of things that are very important. Probiotics, gut health is very important. I think it's very important from a nutritional standpoint, just like we're talking about vitamin C. When you look at vitamin B17, and again, you can get that at rncstore.com. You can either get the apricot seeds or you can get it in a pill form, because the seeds themselves are pretty bitter. But you can get it both ways at RNC Store. And oh, by the way, you can support the program and you can get 10% off yourself if you put in the code NIGHT. But I think these things like vitamin C, vitamin B17, they're really about building up your body. Perhaps they do attack something else that hasn't been fully identified, like parasites or something like that. But when you look at it, it is a different model, isn't it? It's not necessarily about killing. This is one of the reasons why when we talk about parasites, again, they may find it, but I think it has more to do with nutrition than anything else. This is not the model that has been sold by the Rockefellers. This is not the model that's been sold by the pharmaceutical companies. For them, you got to identify some enemy agent and eradicate it. All right. I remember one of the beginnings of one of the James Bond movies. He's there at a health clinic that he's scoping out or whatever, and they're talking about how they're there to get into his body and eliminate all the free radicals that are going to be done. He goes, yeah, I know that. I do that a lot. He also is into the business of eliminating free radicals. But it's like that. It's like a combat thing. You know, we're going to go in here and do it. And the way the oncologists attack this is the way the IDF attacks Gaza or Lebanon. As John Kiriakou said, if they've got one guy that's in there in a building, they'll take out the entire city block and kill 2,000 people to get that one guy. That's the way they operate when they go after cancer. They'll kill you in order to get the so-called cancer, the tumor. That's why we always talk about, well, the operation was successful, but the patient died. Yeah, everybody is dying from this stuff. And so, again, she also pointed out when Dr. Zakaria was saying, some people run these parasite protocols for 6 to 12 months. And she said, because it's about the eggs. So if it's parasites, the parasites may lay eggs that survive the initial treatment cycle. Weeks later, those eggs hatch, the cycle starts again. That's why some practitioners don't recommend a one-and-done approach. They use rotating protocols such as ivermectin, fenbendazole, mebendazole, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing all these things right, but again, you can look it up. It's on X. Look at her Twitter profile. She's got a lot of helpful information about this. I want to pass this on because, folks, this is really important stuff. I mean, we can take a look at what Trump is doing. And look, a lot of that stuff, they can kill you with chemo. They can kill you with vaccines. They can kill you with bombs and wars as well. So all of this stuff is important, but this is equally as important. That's what is going on with the wars and the pharmaceutical wars against us as well. She said the goal is not to do more. The goal is to stay consistent long enough to address multiple life stages of these parasites. She said these organisms may be residing in tissues rather than showing up clearly on standard lab testing. Some practitioners turn their methods, such as meridian testing on muscles testing, to guide their approach. Whether or not you agree with these ideas, one thing is impossible to ignore. More people than ever are asking questions about parasites, chronic symptoms, gut health, and repurposed medicines. And again, the pharmaceutical companies are not interested in doing the research to find out exactly why this stuff is working. So she is focused on the parasites, and yet the people who are poo-pooing this are focused on viruses, which they haven't found for 1.5 centuries. They haven't identified these things or isolated them. So they say, oh, you haven't identified or isolated parasites. Well, you haven't identified or isolated what you say are causing so many of these diseases in the first place. Let me thank some of the people who have contributed here. And again, thank you, Anthony, for matching these tips. Dougalug, thank you very much. And B. Turner 170, thank you. He says, hope you and your family have a happy 4th of July. Actually, it's a time of mourning for us. When we look at what has happened to our country, our great country, and what people like Abraham Lincoln, FDR, and Trump, these 3 fourth-turning presidents, they always want to consolidate power to themselves and ignore the basic principles this country was founded on. Real Jason Barker, thank you very much. He said, here's a couple of gallons for the gas tank. Yeah, it's it doesn't go too far anymore, does it? Handy, thank you very much. He said he sent that on Cash App. And thank you, Anthony, he writes. And yes, thank you very much, Anthony. Patriot Girl said, thank you for the sanity. Well, thank you very much for the support. G Talent 60. Thank you very much. And this IRS Machine Gun, thank you. He said, all I can afford out of the old Strait of Hormuz. ON61, thank you. He said, here's some cigarette money for Lance. That'll be the day.
Thanks.
Yeah, he doesn't smoke anything. Star Barkley, thank you. It's been an amazing month. And the David Knight Show is right there on the killing floor. Thank you very much. I love the content, and I love Marty. Thank you. Thank you, Marty. And again, thank you, Anthony, for matching the tips today on the last day of the month where we're falling pretty short. So we're going to take a quick break, folks, and we will be right back.
You're listening to The David Knight Show.
Hear news now at apsradionews.com or get the APS Radio app and never miss another story.
And some more comments. So this is from Real Jason Barker at Knights of the Storm. He said, everything is so consolidated now that if Walmart and Dollar General shuts down, people will be without many resources. Well, that's absolutely true. You know, they've gone through, and as I mentioned before, and I saw this firsthand, how difficult it is to compete with these large big box retailers that get their money off of Wall Street. They don't even have to make money. I watched for 20 years. They survived longer than we did, actually. We sold and got out of the business. And of course, it wasn't because we're having problems with it. It was because we didn't want to be in that business anymore. I saw what they were pushing, and it just grieved me to have to buy these movies that everybody wanted to see. I didn't want to be a part of that at all. As a matter of fact, when we went to adopt our daughter, we did a bio, and we talked about how we got out of it. So we got out of the video store business for convictions. The adoption agency's lawyer called us up and said, I didn't know what those convictions, the nature of those convictions were and what the charges were. It's like, no, not that kind of conviction, not a lawyer conviction. It's a Christian conviction. But anyway, I saw just how difficult it is to survive because these people don't have to make money. You know, it was Viacom, Paramount bought Blockbuster first it was a concept that was done by a couple of guys, you know, and then you had Wayne Huizinga, who owned this Waste Management Incorporated, he was already like a billionaire. He bought it, and he basically did what Ray Kroc did with McDonald's. He liked the concept that they created, and he started replicating it in a massive way. And he was making money. And then it was bought by Paramount, by Viacom, which is the parent company of Paramount. And they ran it into the ground in terms of profitability. They never made any money after they bought it. It was very, very profitable for Wayne Huizinga. It was profitable for the guys who created it, but not for the big corporation. But they were able to continue on for decades, losing money all the time because of Wall Street. As I pointed out the other day, it's exactly what Moderna did as well. SFlow 0818 says, get off the grid if possible. Yeah, take that advice from Trump. What he's telling the big corporations applies to us as individuals, as families. You can't trust the grid. It's falling apart. It's going to be under stress, and it's going to be attacked by these data centers' demands. They're growing their demands faster than they are growing the power to feed it. And so when you look at this really big one that is in Utah, this gigantic one that's out there, it's got a lot of gas generators. They're doing their own power on site. Not all of them are doing that, though. So it's going to raise your electricity price. It's going to also make it unstable because you've got the government mandates coming from Democrats and others, and they're still out there doing that kind of stuff. And they are putting on these renewable energy mandates. It's kind of interesting as they're talking about the Canada, and you've got Mark Carney, who is a globalist extraordinaire. This guy was head of the central bank in Canada, then became head of the central bank in the UK, and now he's the prime minister of Canada. And he's doing a big deal with the Chinese government, bringing in a lot of Chinese electric vehicles because, hey, I don't care if it helps China. We've got to have everybody driving electric vehicles. Why is that? And so the U.S. is sounding the alarm and saying, you know, they're putting in the capability where they can surveil what is happening in the U.S. And, of course, they can shut everything down. If you go back and you look at, I forget who wrote the book Robo-Apocalypse. It was a great title. I want to say Michael Crichton, but it wasn't Michael Crichton, no. Yeah, Lance knows Crichton's books, but it was not Crichton. I forget who it was. But that was one of the things that happened with it when the tech basically was taken down to create massive chaos. You had traffic jams all over the place because all these things that are under computer control, especially the cars. And so they're worried about that. They said, you know, if you had a situation where China wanted to attack, they could create mass chaos by just shutting down all these electronic cars. Hey, they know where we're going, as I pointed out the other day. It's like, they're going to see the big board. But you have to ask yourself the question, yeah, but our own government is spying on us. That's why they're so concerned about it. That's what I said when Trump was freaking out about China and Huawei and 5G in his first term. I said, what he's telling you about them is actually projection. The federal government is absolutely going to do all of the espionage and surveillance that he's saying that China's going to do. And they're going to do it, and it's going to be a lot more dangerous than if China does it. It presents a greater danger to us, our own government, doing this. So all that is a real issue. But they've also found that these inverters that are used with solar panels, again, that's to convert the DC power that you get out of your solar panel into AC that can be used in the house. So these inverters, almost all of them are coming from China, and they found some components, let's say, that are not declared and appear to have a separate function that they haven't really been able to discern, but they're guessing that it is some kind of a surveillance thing or some kind of additional kill switch or something. And when you look at that, they say, well, you know, maybe they're putting a kill switch in where they can turn off our power as well. It's when you look at the inverters themselves, folks, have a built-in failure mode. We saw that happen with the Iberian Peninsula. It was the inverters that, as they started to have a load problem with it, always in the past, if you got generators, and that's what all the other forms of power were really about. They were about massive turbines that were being turned. And of course, you can make those turbines turn by burning any number of things. It can be nuclear or coal or gas or, you know, a whole bunch of different things that you can burn and make the generators turn. Well, those generators are analog and they have a lot of inertia in them, so that when they would have these flexibility changes of load and things like that, they could handle that without crashing. But the inverters don't. And so that's what caused them to lose power all across most of Spain and Portugal. And so you don't even have to have a direct kill switch built in there by the Chinese to be able to turn it off. It's just built into it. Is it a bug or a feature? Yes, it's both of those things. And so when you look at the insanity behind all this stuff, and Trump isn't doing anything to stop any of this, he's not going to protect you about this, just like he's not going to protect you about anything else. For the love of the road, thank you very much. He gave us a tip on Kick. Thank you very much. And High Boost says, protecting data centers and pedophiles. That's our president. Yeah, and person who's going to be our governor likely here in Tennessee, Martial Law Blackburn, is out there protecting the AI data centers and pushing digital ID and everything that she can to push digital currency as well. If you got the data centers, if you got digital ID, if you've got digital currency, they've got us. And she is firmly behind all three of those things, and the point person for the Trump administration, which is also behind all three of those things. Guard Goldsmith, Liberty Conspiracy, good to see you, Guard. I still want to know if the jab mRNA can shed, in addition to the shedding of the spike. Yeah, well, that's, the mRNA is there to create the spike, so maybe both of those could shed. There's so many logical questions that should and could be asked about this stuff. They don't want you to ask any of those questions, and they're not going to give you any answers. I think they know them, but they're not going to let you know. They're not going to let you ask those questions either. Honor Seeker, thank you very much. So thank you, David. I appreciate that. And thank you to Anthony for matching the funds today. Real Jason Barker said, we know the shedding is a real thing because of released Pfizer studies. Part of the requirements were to analyze the amount and the duration of the shedding. And we had reports about that. They were anecdotal at the very beginning of this catastrophe that they pushed on us. And you had situations of women who were bleeding and things like that that indicated something to do with the shedding of the vaccines, people having the same symptoms. And we know that happens with women who are working in close proximity. They can basically have their periods synchronized. And so there are different ways that things can be shed. There's so much stuff, folks, that we don't understand. You know, we look at physics, just like when I talked to Dr. Michael Gulen, excuse me, and he said one of the things that really pushed him from an atheist science show me type of thing to seeing is believing is what he said. Now he says believing is seeing. And what turned him around on all that was quantum mechanics. Just didn't make any logical sense. And so there's so many things in the unseen world, and that really is true. As we learn more and more about microbiology and DNA and these other things, we don't know most of what happens in that world. And so...
and of course, it's also the matter of this isn't being studied honestly to the best of their abilities. It's just the bare minimum, if that, but it's more just trust us and buy our product.
It's not about science or medicine, it's about finance. That's all it is. And Gard Goldsmith said, DMSO is also showing amazing effects on people. I was checking out some more on it last night. On Parkinson's and ALS, it does give me temporary relief on hip pain that I have. And people have talked about that, but there's a lot of different things that it does, which is really kind of strange. We do need to be careful about some of these artificial things, though, even though I use it.
Yeah, we had someone in chat the other day talking about methylene blue, saying that there was a study showing that it could cause infertility.
And men and women, and permanent.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that, but I did link it. I saved his comment to look into later.
Yeah. So, I meant to read that and forward that along to everybody. But, you need to be careful about that. Methylene blue was like an industrial dye. And they found that it did some very effective things. I think it helped me a good deal after I'd had the stroke. And I'm not worried about having any more kids. But other people should be concerned and should know about that type of thing.
Yeah, I looked up methylene blue for stroke recovery, and if you have just had a stroke, that is a very good thing to take, but if you're thinking about having kids, maybe not.
That's right, yeah. Usually those are two different groups of people. Unless you've been injected, then you you will have a stroke for that.
Pfizer's bringing the age down all the time.
Yeah, I know.
More
Who would have thought? Who would have thought about all that stuff? And so iHandy said, I believe ivermectin helps my neck feel better. I've had neck pain for 3 years, probably arthritic in nature as a result of my hobby. Well, I mentioned that I had a friend of ours who came here, and he got very, very sick in the early days of the so-called pandemic, and he was getting pneumonia. He took ivermectin. He said he could just feel it breaking up, and said it's almost like a burning in his chest, and he was great the next day. He was worried that he was going to have to be hospitalized, and, he was already aware of what they were doing to people in the hospital. But then she took it. She saw some recommendations for a skin problem that she'd had for years and not found anything that would work. She used one treatment, and it was gone, and she couldn't believe it. And so that's one of the things she was telling us about. So there's a lot of things happening with all this stuff. The bottom line is we need to go back to the old ethical anecdote. First, do no harm. And they don't even look at it anymore to see if it is harmful. As a matter of fact, Mark Hall, who's doing a documentary on stem cells, which they fight that really hard. And of course, stem cells got a bad rap with a lot of people because they were pulling some stem cells from aborted babies. But it's not necessary to do that. You can use your own stem cells. You can also use umbilical cord stem cells. So it does not have to be connected to some kind of cannibalistic medicine. And when he was looking into this, he pointed out that in Japan, their equivalent of the FDA says that you need to show that what you're doing is not harmful. And then if it's not harmful, go ahead and use it as much as you want to show if it is going to be affected. You're allowed to do that. It's a very different approach than we have here in America. They, first of all, don't even care if they do any harm. They want to do massive studies. They make it extremely complicated and expensive. And only the pharmaceutical giants can clear that hurdle. And then they are basically free to do whatever they wish. FDA, free to do anything if you pay the people in the bureaucracy. But if you don't pay the people in the bureaucracy and you don't have those kind of connections, you're forbidden to do anything. That's what FDA is really there about. Well, let's talk about what's happening with the war, because Trump and Iran, they're on again, off again. It's tit for tat constantly. Israel's Netanyahu is facing an election challenge from a hawkish ex-general. How about that? We talk all the time about how horrible Netanyahu is, but actually most Israelis want the Israeli government to go harder on people in Lebanon and Gaza and other places. I played the clips for you about Netanyahu. Yeah, we hit him first, and we hit him before they attack us, and we keep hitting him, and we kill everybody, right? That's his ethic. Well, he's doing that because the guy who is rising in the polls is saying that. And people believe that this guy is more sincere in it than they believe Netanyahu is. So that's how far apart the American public and general opinion throughout the world is away from what is happening inside of Israel. Yeah, genocide Yahoo is not tough enough for the Zionist Israelis. Israel's former military chief, Gadi Eisenkot, boasts of his doctrine of smashing foes with disproportionate force. And again, the emphasis on disproportionate, that's his term. This has nothing to do, folks, with the just war theory. That is a Christian idea. Just like the Declaration of Independence is a Christian idea. We're created in the image of God, each and every one of us. There's not some master race out there. There's not some chosen ethnic group. We're all created equal in the sight of God. There's not two different groups of people. And as a result, we all have certain human rights, and governments are instituted to protect those rights. That's the fundamental idea of America and the purpose of the American government and the Constitution. And yet these people are against that. It's that kind of understanding, that kind of Christian understanding, which has also been behind the idea of a just war, that you do not fight a war except in defense of innocent life. You do not start a war. You must defend against a war. That's what the government is for. But it's not there to start wars of aggression. And yet what we see now in America and Israel is exactly the opposite of that. We see across the board, Western civilization is abandoning the principles and the ethics of Christianity. That's why we're so concerned about what they're going to do with the data centers and all the rest of this stuff, because we see them burning all of the foundations of Western civilization in preparation for this massive surveillance state and technocracy. So they're going to have an election be called by October. This guy, who's 66 years old, has been is a rising figure. He's created a new political party, and it's rapidly rising in Israel. Israelis are preparing to vote for the first time since the trauma of October 7th, 2023, and when they had the attack from Hamas. And understand that Benjamin Netanyahu pushed very much for Hamas to be in charge of Gaza because he wanted to have extremists that would give him an opportunity to push back against them. That's why so many people believe that this was something of a Pearl Harbor event. But anyway, his wars have been devastating but inconclusive in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran. So the people are not happy about this. They want to win a war, and they are all for war. So again, if you don't win if you don't win with all these wars that you're initiating, maybe you shouldn't do them in the first place. Especially if you make it about disproportionate attacks and say we're going to focus on the civilian population, that always loses because it galvanizes the opposition, just as we saw in Iran. You had uprisings against the government there in Iran, which is not a good government. And yet these people snatched defeat out of the jaws of victory by attacking Iran. And so the people then turned to their own government to protect them from these outside invaders who were dropping bombs on them. That's how this works each and every time. An Eisenkot victory might not lead to any major softening of a hawkish Israeli regional policy. You know, he'll actually make it worse. He has attacked Netanyahu for bowing too readily to U.S. demands for a ceasefire in Lebanon. That's right. You should not bow to any U.S. demands because we are to be ruled by them, right? Even though we're giving them the money, the bombs, and all the rest of the stuff. They should call the shots. And that's what Netanyahu is boasting about. And what the Israelis are upset about is that he's not calling the shots enough. So this guy was a commander during the 2006 war with the Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. He pioneered a deterrent strategy of responding to attacks by militant groups with overwhelming destruction, even of civilian infrastructure. Where have we seen that before? Do you remember World War II, where you'd have the occupying Nazis would come in and somebody would assassinate one of these officers over there? They would go into the village, they'd pull people out and execute them. That's basically what Israel is doing, except they're doing it by bombs and doing it to civilians across the board, especially to children. Yeah, they have, this guy is not a warrior. He is a war criminal. There's a big difference. And that's the way that Israel is fighting their wars right now. He himself calls it disproportionate strikes. And that is antithetical to the Christian idea of how we would fight a war. We look at it as a tragic but necessary evil if we are attacked. Purpose of a just war is to stop the attack. We wear uniforms to identify the combatants so we don't hurt the civilians. We try to avoid that. And the purpose of the war, since you didn't start it, right, that would be unjust to start it. So the purpose of defending against an attack of aggression is to end that attack, to end the aggression, to achieve peace. That's not their purpose. This is why this whole thing about Judeo-Christian values is a lie. We don't share fundamental values with them. Not at all. They're about war for land and money. We are not about that. And there's no common ground there. Again, when you talk about it from a morality standpoint, you have people like War Pete have bought into this ethic. War Pete has removed Christ. He has embraced and worships an ethnic state. And they are the ones who are bringing us this unjust total war. Don't talk to me about Judeo-Christian values. This Judaism, Zionism value here is antithetical to Christian ethics and teachings as they are antithetical to Christ. They not only reject Christ and reject his teachings, but they despise them. There is no Judeo-Christian thing. Anybody talks to you about that, you need to correct them on that. We've heard it so many times that many people, I've used it myself in the past. I will not be using that ever again in the future. He added the military should be free to attack Hezbollah anywhere in Lebanon. And I've played the clips where Netanyahu is saying the same thing. Why is Netanyahu saying the same thing? Because this guy wants to be far more aggressive. And Netanyahu's going to lose to this aggressive guy because that's what the people of Israel want. They want more war for more land. So he said, this ceasefire has created an insane reality. For the people who want war always, people like Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro, look at how deranged they get when anybody talks about peace. And you can put Lindsey Graham in the same grouping there. These are people who love war, they sell war, they live for war, and they will kill you as well. The uncompromising stance on the wars in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran, along with this criticism of Netanyahu's overall strategy and handling of Trump, we should handle Trump differently, right, are popular in Israel despite the cost to the country's position with critical Western allies. They don't really care. They are suicidal, and they are insane, war crazy. We've seen this depicted in movies. I imagine it's real. Somebody gets into a killing frenzy. I remember The Patriot, Mel Gibson's character. He just, at one point, he doesn't want to get involved in the war, but at one point, the killing comes to his family. He gets out there and he basically goes berserk, killing people. And that's what we have to guard against. That is basic human nature. And these people have surrendered to basic human nature. But when you look at what War Pete has done, it's not just about what's going on with the Middle East and Iran and Israel and all the rest of the stuff. He carries this antichrist approach to war. He carries it into Venezuela, everywhere. He doesn't care about killing non-combatants, civilians, people who have been shipwrecked because you've blown up their boat, but they survive, so you go back and you kill them. That's what War Pete embraces. And that's why we need to always oppose this, because, folks, these people will be doing it to us next. You know, whenever you look at the quote-unquote means of defense abroad, they will become weapons of tyranny at home. The people who will do this, if you got somebody like Pete Hegseth, will machine gun people in the water, you think that he's going to tell his troops to exercise care if there's something here domestically that they're going to do? No, not at all. They must have had to take Hegseth and put him in a straitjacket, hog tie him, and throw him in a closet in order to give some aid to the people in Venezuela after those horrific earthquakes that they had over the weekend. They sent a bunch of military equipment and personnel down there to actually help people. I'm sure he's not happy about that. I haven't seen him. Maybe he has. I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen War Pete out there boasting about how they're helping people. He's all about killing. Everything is about lethality. That is not Christian. To glory in that. That is as pagan as it comes. So the people talking about it said, well, he comes across as a genuine guy. Genuinely deranged, genuinely a war criminal. They said he's likable. He's an everyday person. Well, it tells you something about their society, doesn't it? He's not too sophisticated. People feel like they can relate to him. Yeah, you know, people felt like they could relate to Adolf as well. He's one of the people. He's one of us. All he needs is some living room, some Lebensraum, right? And he's a demagogue as well. But he is seen in Israel as a centrist. Think about this. This guy who says, yeah, we're going to go everywhere in Lebanon, and we're going to kill all the civilians in Lebanon. And we're going to do it disproportionately. You know, and you hurt one of us, we'll kill all of the people in this town, right? True Nazism. And yet, he is a centrist in Israel. What does that tell you about that country and what it has turned into? Netanyahu, in a way, is like a political Houdini, says one person. He manages to get out of unfathomable corners. So he may be able to pull himself out from this. And there's a very long article about Netanyahu's background. And the thing I found interesting about it was they kept referring to revisionist Zionism. I thought, well, what is revisionist Zionism? I know what Zionism is about. 30 years of Netanyahu, the man who shaped modern Israel. And it's a very long article. I think it's on RT, if I remember correctly. I'm not going to go through the article in detail. But I think the detail that stuck out to me was how, again, as Gerald Celente has pointed out, his name is, it's like some Polish name or something, Wiklagowski or something. It was his grandfather who invented the name Netanyahu. And he did it because he was a revisionist Zionist. And what is that? Well, it's not just somebody who wants a homeland for the Jews. And remember, the original Zionists were saying, well, it could be anywhere. You know, they explored a lot of different places before it didn't have to be in Palestine. But they settled on that. But they were open and looking at other places as well. The revisionist Zionists, however, are the people that are looking to establish what they claim is greater Israel. And that means that they want to take over all the Middle East. And they want to do it by force. They don't want to, they want a military solution and only a military solution. These are the real hardcore Zionists, the revisionist Zionists. Think of them like jihadi Muslims, because they are the mirror image of those. And what we have to be concerned about, we need to be as concerned about these revisionist Zionists. And again, Mike Huckabee is one of them. You saw in that interview that he had with Tucker Carlson. Oh, yeah, take all of it. Take all of it. It all belongs to them. Well, those kinds of people and the things that they will do, they are actually, I would say, even more dangerous because they have more power. But they have the same mentality as the jihadi Muslims do as well. So we got these two groups that are fighting each other, and both of them want to invade and take over America in one way or the other. You got these massive communities of jihadist Muslims who want to take over certain areas of Texas. They can go, Texas got these big wide open spaces, so they want to go in and create pockets of Sharia law That's a threat. But it's also a threat when you've got billionaires who come in and take over all of our media and then demand that government shut down and censor anything that they don't like. That should tell you something. When you got someone who their first instinct is to shut down and to censor, it tells you, first of all, they're lying, and secondly, they're tyrants, because that's what tyrants do. The First Amendment is there first because it is so important and it tells us what we're doing. But we're talking about the situation in Israel and the general pulse. Is this a problem that is limited just to Satan Yahoo? Or is this something that is much broader based? I would say it is much broader based. Take a look at this. These are Israelis who are setting up outdoor screens so they can stream and cheer as entire Lebanese towns are destroyed and turned into rubble by the bombing campaign of the Israeli Defense Force. Look at that. That's disgusting. They're doing that, targeting civilians. And that's what this guy who is taking on Netanyahu and rising rapidly in the polls, that's exactly what he wants to do.
Hey, you think the dance parties are bad? Wait till you see the launch parties.
Launch parties, yeah. 30 years of Nazi Yahoo, talking about his struggle for survival. Again, the parallels to the Nazis and Hitler are truly amazing. You know, that was what Mein Kampf meant, my struggle. And that's what Netanyahu is constantly talking about. It's my struggle. I need to have more room, more Lebensraum, and I am the master race, and we can do anything we want. The rest of you are subhuman. That's the whole idea. And so he is bragging about how he ordered Trump into war. He said, when I came to President Trump, I told him, we're going into Iran. I did not ask permission. I simply informed him of our plan. But it wasn't simply him saying, we're going to do this and so forth. He was saying, you will join us. That's exactly what it was about. So the UN has found and released a report showing indisputable evidence of Israel intentionally killing and torturing children. The commission found indisputable evidence with regards to deliberate targeting and killing of Palestinian children, the use of torture, inhuman and degrading treatment, including sexual mistreatment as well. More than 20,000 children have been killed. More than 44,000 have been injured. No attack on Israel justifies murdering kids and using torture and sexual violence on them. But this has to be called out by world leaders, and Israel must stop targeting kids, says, let's see, this was Ian, what's his last name? I got cut off here, who is, you've seen him on social media quite a bit. We'll get to one of his clips here in a minute here. But let's talk about what's going on in terms of this report from the UN. They pointed out that they said support for Israeli war crimes continues to drive a rift between both political parties in the United States. Opposition to Israel played a key role in the outcomes of New York's congressional primaries, with anti-Zionist candidate receiving sweeping victories over candidates backed by established Democrats. And again, we saw this with a mayoral race. I played the clips of several people who were Jewish. There was a Jewish press organization from Israel that came over and asked people, and they said, yeah, I'm Jewish and I'm voting for Mamdani because I can't stand what the government of Israel is doing in Gaza. And he was the only one who would stand up and call it out. Everybody else was running for mayor. And why does a mayor have to be involved in foreign wars of a foreign government? But they were demanding it. You know, they said, well, where's your first place that you're going to go when you become mayor? What country are you going to visit first? Hint, hint, Israel? And he said, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be mayor of New York. We got problems here that I need to take care of. And he doesn't have the solution, folks. He's a socialist, if ever there was one. But the bottom line was he stood up to these guys. They go back and all of them were just kowtowing to Israel, saying, oh, no, I really will go to Israel. I love Israel. I love Israel. And he was his own man. and that helped him to win. Now the same thing has happened in the congressional primaries with the Democrats. If you oppose what is happening in Israel, that's what a pariah they have become. If you oppose what's happening in Israel, that gets you to the top of the list in the Democrat congressional primaries. And so, again, the fact that they are targeting children is what they were talking about in this report. They showed this. They said, based on the clustering of injuries and the targeted body parts, says a doctor who visited Gaza on a medical mission, he said, I assess that the Israeli soldiers have been deliberately shooting teenage boys in a game of target practice, a different body part being targeted on different days. Isn't that interesting? So he sees these kids coming in, and it's like, they target one body part one day, so all of them are coming in, they're all shot in the same spot. Then another day, they're all shot in a different spot, but they're all shot in the same spot on the other day. So this is a very clear pattern that suggests that this is a deliberate aiming of different body parts of children. And so again, we look at it, 20,000 killed, 44,000 wounded. And so what they're saying is, from the very beginning of this report, it is unambiguous in its findings, with the headline reading, "The essence of childhood has been destroyed." Conclusive evidence that Israeli forces have consistently and deliberately targeted children. As a matter of fact, if you look at this is a priest who, for 7 continuous hours, he read the names of every child who died in Gaza. And it took him 7 hours to read the names. That puts, when we just throw out a number like 20,000, that is huge. And yet that's what it really looks like. It takes you 7 hours to read through the names. And I got to say, when we look at that, how do we call ourselves pro-life? I've got a lot of Christian friends who are heavily against abortion, and yet they will support anything that Israel does in a knee-jerk fashion. How do you understand that inconsistency here? As a matter of fact, according to one report, among those killed, 5,031 were under the age of 5. More than 1,000 were under the age of 1 year of age. Now, the pro-life community will talk about infanticide and say, you're killing babies. And you are killing babies if you have an abortion. And we have so-called ethicists like Peter Singer who come out and say, well, I don't think you're a real person until you get to the age of, let's say, 3. And people will rightfully say, you are pushing infanticide. You're going to enable infanticide. You're going to say that a child is not human until they're 3 years of age? So why aren't these same people concerned about this in Gaza? Because these people are not human? Is that really what we're talking about here? That's not what Christ taught us. Christ taught us there's no difference between Jew and Gentile. There's no difference between male and female. There's no difference between a slave and someone who's free. There's no difference between a poor person and a Jewish billionaire, right? They're all the same in the sight of God. And if we don't hold it that way, don't call yourself pro-life if you're going to cheer what Israel is doing in Gaza. You're not pro-life. You're pro-abortion. And you don't care what age. Or maybe you do care. Only before the child is born, we're not allowed to kill them. But after they're born, it's free game, and we can play games with them. We can shoot them in different body parts. And other doctors have pointed out, I don't know if it's in their report or not, point out they had a lot of kids who were coming in. There was one shot to the mid-body and then a second one to the head. And they said, that's just deliberate murder. They're just trying to make sure these kids are dead. And maybe target practice as well. The commission interviewed 17 medical professionals who had worked in hospitals across Gaza. And I just read you the one where they're talking about the game of target practice. They said 27% of those killed or wounded in Gaza for the last couple of years were children. These deliberate attacks wiped out entire families across 2 or 3 or even 4 generations. The Israeli security forces would knowingly, foreseeably cause childhood deaths by launching continuous, intensive airstrikes on densely populated areas. That's what you saw the Israeli people watching on the outdoor screen and cheering. and cheering. Deploying large yield bombs calibrated for maximum casualties. Children with their small, fragile bodies have a much higher chance of death and serious injury in these types of attacks. The fact that the Israelis continued and repeated these attacks over a 2-year period without attending targeting criteria or the selection of weapons while the child casualties mounted indicates that such attacks, which killed children in high numbers, were intentional. Israeli security forces knew that children were present in the areas it attacked, yet it intentionally directed its attacks on civilian residential areas and civilian property. And it's doing the same thing in Lebanon and out right now. The same thing in Lebanon. Because Netanyahu and this other guy want your land. We're going to kill you. The report also found a deliberate targeting of neonatal and maternity care centers, as well as pediatric hospitals, which directly contributed to what they described as a particularly severe impact on birth rates and infant health outcome. Perhaps the IDF should rename itself. Maybe they should call themselves the Palestinian Parenthood Association, like Planned Parenthood, right? Because there's Planned Parenthood. They're planning to not be parents.
The idea of the infant death force.
That's good. Yeah, infant death. Yeah. Infanticide and death force. Yeah. You know, when we protested the abortion clinic there in Austin, we had signs that said Black genocide because that was what Margaret Sanger wanted. She wanted to eradicate the Black population and take it down with abortion. And it was Black genocide. This is just another form of it here. And this is about not just, stopping at the point before birth, but this is about going up to even teenage, right? But even when you kill an adult, what you're doing is essentially aborting their life, isn't it? That's what murder is. All murder is abortion. We only call it abortion in the United States when it applies to the preborn. But I think it applies everywhere. There's somebody coming in and aborting a human life, whether it is a child or a baby or a teen or an adult. That's why it is so reprehensible. And it's why you can't call yourself pro-life if you're going to support these wars of aggression, wars of greed. That's what it really is. So they conclude by said that in their conclusion they said that Israel was also restricting, of course, humanitarian aid. We saw them do that, deny food and water to people. But among the numerous documented crimes of Israeli security forces committed against children were multiple accounts of torture, rape, and sexual violence committed against children detained in the custody of Israeli soldiers. Well, what would you expect from the people who brought us Jeffrey Epstein, right? Why are we surprised by this? And don't expect Trump to care. If he takes an interest, it'll be to cover it up. While they were in detention centers, strip searches are frequently employed against children who are then molested during the process, beaten if they cried. They were also denied adequate food, water, and medical care, violence against genitals, isolation and solitary confinement, intimidation, sometimes mauling by security guards, and being forced into torturously painful stress positions while stripped for up to 12 hours at a time. Yeah, these are the people. It disgusts me, folks, to see Christians cheering for this government, to see Christians saying that, or nominal Christians, I should say. I don't know if they're Christians or not. People like Huckabee saying, yeah, Israel is a foundation of Christianity. It is not. Christ is a foundation, and this is as against anything that he ever taught. He said, allow the children to come to me. Don't kill the children, right? Sexual violence occurs with tolerance or explicit encouragement within the custodial change. And again, remember, people like Jeffrey Epstein and was run by the Mossad and by the CIA. They do this kind of stuff all the time. As a matter of fact, one person put up a counter to this. This is some American Zionist, and said, if you think it's genocide, it's because you're either very vulnerable to propaganda or you hate Jews. See, You can't oppose what they're doing without being called racist and a Jew hater, right? This has been utterly conventional war, said this person, with the lowest civilian to combat casualty rate in modern warfare. An absolute lie. But of course, if you say your lie and you say it with convictions, you can keep saying those lies until you get convictions in a court. Let's go back and take a look at this. I looked up to see what the casualties of the IDF have been in this unilateral war that they had. They had 963 IDF soldiers killed. Just from children, there were 20,000 kids in Gaza, 20 times the number. I want to say, you want to go back and look at that statement again? This is the lowest civilian combat to casualty rate in modern warfare, said this lying Zionist. These people will lie about everything to defend the indefensible. And then when you look at how many were wounded, right? Well, you had, of the IDF, they had 6,400 wounded. In Gaza, the children there, they had 44,000 wounded. And so, when we look at this, it absolutely, folks, is genocide. Even the Israeli organizations have concluded that Israel committed genocide against Palestinians in Gaza. And we have seen over and over again, and I played for you the clip, which is illegal to play in Israel, the fact that Gallant, a former defense minister, said, on the day of the attack on October 7th, we went in and we killed all the people, all the Jews. We had to kill them because we had to get a terrorist or so, or we wanted to get the terrorist. They even kill Israelis. That's what these revisionist Zionists will do. They'll kill everybody. And that's what Kiriakou said. They got one person thereafter. They'll kill everybody on several blocks to get that one person. That's the kind of criminals there. And that is criminal. It is immoral. It is despicable. It is unethical. I don't know what else we can say about it. But it checks all of the boxes. It is a war crime. And where do we get the morals for a war crime? Well, they came from Christian principles. There's never been a war in history where 80% of the buildings have been destroyed, 100% of the population displaced, and where 50% of the deaths are children. Well, it's actually 27%, but that's really high. Call it what it is, genocide. And they want to do the same thing in Lebanon. And Netanyahu is about to lose his job because he's not doing it hard enough to suit the Israeli people. Well, if you want to see the hatred of the people that are there, this guy is Exhibit A. He is a son of Hamas member. He's become an Israeli spy. He is threatening the world with secret weapons.
Israel's existence is not negotiable, and it does not depend on superpowers or the public opinion. And if they keep pushing Israel to the corner, they are the ones who are going to suffer the most. Israel hasn't used everything that it has. And Israel, on a purpose, did not expose the advanced weapons that it has for a very important reason. We don't want the enemy to know what we are having. And now, at this point, we're just playing around.
Playing around.
This is the clear...
It's amazing. They're just playing around at this point, yeah. We can kill everybody. And he's not talking about, when he talks about his secret weapons, he's not talking about nuclear weapons. Everybody knows they've got nuclear weapons. Jonathan Pollard has bragged about the fact that he blackmailed, that Israel blackmailed the United States government when they didn't want to give weapons to Israel in the 1973 war. They said, well, look at our nuclear weapons. We'll start nuking the states around here if you don't give us more weapons, more conventional weapons. So again, is it a surprise that this guy, who is a son of a Hamas member, would now be part of Mossad? And it's kind of interesting, isn't it, when you look at how ISIS and Hamas and what appears to be enabling and equipping done by America and by Israel to these groups. As I said before, Netanyahu pushed to have Hamas in charge of Gaza because he wanted to have a villain that he could use to attack, as an excuse to attack. So it's not a surprise. And it is not a surprise if you look at it, the fact that Israel has not been attacked by ISIS or any of these other terrorists. Wouldn't you think that they would focus on that? But they don't.
On my very first day at the CIA, we had a series of briefings. The director came, welcome to the CIA, congratulations. And then the director of personnel, the director of health insurance, the director of whatever, the director of security. So he told us things like, there's a restaurant right down the street, a steakhouse. Don't ever go there, he says, because it's the restaurant that's closest to the CIA. The KGB thinks that we all go there. So they all go there. So the place is only KGB. So we never go inside. I've never been in there still to this day. So he said the Israeli embassy has a representative from Mossad and a representative from Shin Bet, right? And they conduct a liaison with us. But the FBI has identified 187 Mossad agents in the United States, not declared to the U.S. government, spread all around the country to steal our defense secrets. And I raised my hand. I said, why? We give them 99% of our defense secrets. And he said, exactly. They're here to steal the last 1%. And that's what they do. The Israelis are not friends of the United States.
If the KGB...
But we're going to give them everything, and we're going to make sure that the president is going to be compelled to give them everything. That's what the Zionist-controlled GOP wants to do. And so they're going to make it a crime for the president not to give them everything. If he doesn't give them some intelligence, then he has to go to Congress and tell them what the intelligence is and why he's not giving it to Israel, so they can then turn around and give it to Israel. You know, it is kind of interesting. The guy that I was trying to remember earlier was Ian Carroll. And just as an aside, when he's talking about this, don't go into that restaurant because it's close to the CIA headquarters and the KGB thinks that we all eat there. So it's all KGB inside there. And he's think of Mad Magazine, the spy versus spy stuff. I guess you walk into that restaurant and you see spy versus spy, all these guys in their white and black outfits all eating at the different tables anyway. But what Ian Carroll said, and it's absolutely true, and we saw it in that comment earlier. The person said, well, if you think it's genocide, it's because you hate all the Jews and you want to kill us all. And he said, what we're seeing here is a combination of violent tribalism and existential victim narrative. A very dangerous, the most dangerous combination that is possible. He said either they rule the world and everyone bows to their chosenness, or they keep picking fights until the whole world turns on them and they're destroyed. And so he said, when you look at this, if you oppose anything they're doing, it's because you are anti-Semitic, you're racist, and you want to kill all the Jews. And this is the kind of tactic I've seen them use against people forever. They used it against Pat Buchanan. They used it against Joe Sobran at National Review. Anybody who would come in and say, I don't like the idea of foreign aid. You know, we're giving all this money. We're giving billions to Israel and billions to Egypt and on to all these. Let's just stop it for everybody. They weren't saying, let's not give any money to Israel. They said, let's stop it for everybody. We don't need to be doing this. Most of the money that we're sending into these countries is being kept by corrupt rulers for themselves. It's not helping anybody. And we shouldn't be giving them weapons to kill each other with either. So if you say that, then you are anti-Semitic, and they boast about the fact that they took out Pat Buchanan and they took out other people. And then, of course, if you say, see, I told you they control the government, when they brag about coming after this UN person and saying, we made sure she can't even enter the United States, and she's banned from using the financial system completely. So you're saying the Jews don't control the banks? When you ban her out of the financial system? You're saying the Jews don't control the American government when you ban her from coming into the country? And when you're able to get this guy who even works at the UN, you get him demoted. I guess the UN is maybe not as much under the control as these other institutions are, so he only got demoted instead of fired. So at the same time, they say, you can't say what we're doing or we will destroy your life. And then have this double narrative. It is a perpetual victimhood here. So some weapons stay hidden for a reason, said that guy. And so for now, we're still just playing around. So the question is, Ian Carroll said, well, they're threatening everybody with nuclear weapons. I don't think that's the case. Everybody knows they have nuclear weapons. I think there's another secret weapon that they're playing around with. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. We're going to take a quick break and we'll talk about what I think the secret weapon is. And I think we're seeing it unleashed already across Europe. And we have an Israeli-connected person who is boasting about that particular weapon. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. Before we go, I'm Marty. Thank you for the tip again. He says 40 minutes to go. Well, it's now 30 minutes to go for the matching from Anthony. So thank you, Marty, and thank you, Anthony, for matching the tips. Hi Boost says, if there was a picture of a terrorist in the dictionary, this dude's face would be it. I agree. Again, would you watch this guy and you listen to him? Would you be able to tell if he was a radical jihadist terrorist or if he was an Israeli Zionist terrorist? I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. As a matter of fact, the people that were blown up by bombing campaign of Menachem Begin when he attacked the King David Hotel when they were trying to get their independence, they were following the same tactics and strategies that the Palestinians later used against them.
Yeah, you could say
Menachem Begin was a terrorist.
Central casting for a terrorist, and he kind of was in that Mossad picked him and his family for the face of Hamas, or a member of Hamas, I should say.
That's right, yeah. Hi, Boost. If there was a picture of a terrorist, yeah, that's right. And Steve Ave says, Hamas was created by Israel. I agree. And I think ISIS and all these other things created by the U.S. government, created by and armed by the U.S. government. I mean, look at what we did in Syria, right? The guy that is the head of Syria right now, he was in ISIS, he was in Al-Qaeda, he was in Al-Nusra. We put him in power. We had A-10 Warthogs that were flying air support for these people to put them in power. And then what happens to the Christian churches that have been there for centuries? Well, these guys that we put in power are going around chopping people's heads off. That's what happens. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The David Knight Show.
In July of 1896, exactly 130 years ago, I warned this great nation of the government's plan to crucify mankind upon a cross of gold. Of course, that was before they started to bleed us dry with the death of 1,000 fiat paper cuts. But after you bought every single commemorative David Knight Show coin in gold color, the podcast's gold reserves are depleted. They issued 100 numbered gold-colored coins and declared the mint closed. The people cried out, "Free silver!" Well, the likes of JP Morgan can't stop this all-new commemorative coin. Now in silver color, while supplies last. This commemorative coin does not contain precious metal, but does keep the show on the air. Equal to the gold color, this limited run is numbered 1 to 100. Get yours today at thedavidknightshow.com. Hurry, because supplies are disappearing quicker than the purchasing power of the dollar.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when you look at it, we look at the price of stocks, of bonds, of gold, nothing makes sense. The market is absolutely crazy, but the reality is laying there ready to reassert itself, and it eventually will. All the things that made gold go up in the last year are still there. And as Tony Arterburn was saying, when he saw the price of gold, he's backing the truck up to load up. And I think that's a good strategy. Yeah, everybody make their own decisions. But if you look at all the fundamentals, the things that caused gold to go up so much a couple of years ago are all still there. It's just that everybody's reacting to whatever the latest lie is coming out of Trump's mouth. And pricing in the fact, well, we got peace in our time now. And so we're going to, everybody start partying like it's 1999 again. But I want to thank the people who have been giving us tips on Zelle, Joshua J., Daniel C., Janice W., Charles D., Darren M., Susan L., Julie W. Thank you very much. And as we mentioned before, handy on Cash App. And if you want to know how to support the show, you can go to davidknight.news, and that'll give you links to where you can find the show. We do it live every Monday through Friday. We are here, and actually Friday's shows are usually a new pair of interviews that we do, plus some live news. And but it is always live Monday through Thursday, and it's always new content for all 5 days. But you have links to where you can find the program, and you can watch it time shifted as well. We have podcasts as well as uploads to a lot of different platforms, and you can find the places where you can support us, whether it's Zelle or Cash App or other places where you can support the program. And I want to thank Trucker Chris for the win. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. He writes cheers on that. Thank you. Well, I said we're going to talk about their secret weapon. Could it be that this is their secret weapon? This is Barbara Lerner Specter. Oh, just like out of James Bond, right? Explaining how Jews are responsible for forcing mass migration upon Europe in order to make it multicultural. This is their obsession, isn't it? We see it over and over again. Got to have multiculturalism, DEI. Where did that come from? The institutions that they have marched their way through and taken control of, whether it's universities or the others. This is what the left-wing Jews do. Now, the right-wing Jews, the revisionist Zionists, they just want to kill everybody. But the left has a different plan for us. This is Barbara Lerner Specter.
I think there's a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
Yeah, Europe will not survive because of your multiculturalism. And everybody already knows that you were leading this. And she comes out right out and says it. And says, yeah, there's going to be some pushback against us for that. And so what they'll do is they'll push back against people and say, you're anti-Semitic and a Jew hater for saying what we all know is true and what we ourselves say about this. You know, maybe the Mossad secret weapon that terrorist was talking about, maybe that is the bomb of population, a mass migration population bomb. Jonathan Pollard, who was boasting about nuclear blackmail of the United States in 1973. And of course, what did we get for that? When we succumbed to the blackmail of the Jews over using nuclear weapons, what we got was the 1973 oil embargo. And so Trump is basically doing the same thing because, they blackmailed Trump. And so we're right in the same spot again. But Jonathan Pollard has said, I think we need to send all these people in Gaza to Ireland. They deserve it. Really? What did Ireland ever do to Israel? Nothing. Why does Jonathan Pollard hate them so much? Well, they're goy, right? They're subhuman because they're not part of his chosen people. Everyone is goy to the revisionist Zionist, which is what Jonathan Pollard is. The hate doesn't end with the Arabs and the Muslims. They have different schemes. The leftist Jews have their own schemes, just like you saw there, the multiculturalism and things like that. And of course, just like the technocratic globalists, the power has to be total and it has to be global for them. And so they're looking at multiculturalism, DEI, and an invasion of Europe. That's exactly what they want. And when we look at the effect that it's having on the UK, there's no question about what it is doing in the UK. The UK has totally fallen. And as a result, you got Keir Starmer, who is going to be resigning. Guess where he's going to go? Where'd all these prime ministers who are used and weaponized by the globalists, whether it's the World Economic Forum or some other organization, just like Mark Rutte, right? The current head of, what do they call it, the General Secretary, whatever, of NATO. It's always a political position. The guy that's there right now is Mark Rutte. Where did he come from? He came from the Netherlands. He was prime minister there. What did he do there? He attacked his own people over the green agenda. And so he was criminalizing fertilizer. He was trying to shut down farms. And the people organized and threw him out. Where did he go? Well, they welcomed him in as the head of NATO. And so Keir Starmer is hoping that after he's betrayed his own people in a different way, that he will be welcomed in as the head of NATO as well. Meanwhile, King Charles has now rejected the historic title of Defender of the Faith. This is something that has been a title of the monarch of the UK for over 500 years. And he does not want to have the faith anymore. He rejects the Christian faith. And people have seen this over and over again. He's even talked about this since the 1990s. Yes.
The attacker of the faith.
The attacker of the faith. No, what he's done is he's changing Defender of the Faith to protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. Yeah, he rejects the idea that there is the faith because Christians understand that there is one Lord, one faith, one baptism. It's not multicultural.
Yeah,
there's one God and Father of us all. Yeah.
But what he really means is protecting, the Muslims' ability to do their chants in the middle of the street.
Yep.
They won't allow, for instance, someone to silently pray near an abortion clinic or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And of course, just this year, at Easter time, and again, Easter is the, it's not even gets to the real issue of what we're commemorating there. We're commemorating the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ, not an Easter bunny. We're not celebrating some pagan holiday of spring rebirth or anything. But even to say something about Easter, he couldn't say that. But he put out a message about Ramadan and then refused to say anything about Easter. So now he's taking the next step to remove the title of Defender of the Faith from himself, King Charles has. And he's now protecting the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. And he used to have the title as the head of the Church of England. And I guess really, Church of England has gone so far off the rails, he could easily keep that without being a problem. Back in 1994, he suggested that he'd rather be the defender of faith rather than defender of the faith. And again, that passage where Paul says, there's one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of us all. He says, we're all called to one hope. The problem is that the UK is hopeless. It has abandoned their hope in God, has abandoned their hope for a better life that will be eternal, not as short as this life is. And the question is, as Brian Shilhavi put on his Health Impact website. He said, has God abandoned America, or will he do it soon? Right? Because we have abandoned God. And that's what happens, when you have people like King Charles and our leaders and people like Donald Trump who thinks that he's God. That's what happens. God is slow to wrath, but once it begins, it begins. And we can see what is happening now in the UK. So Starmer's going to head off to NATO, and he'll be fine. But this is really what it looks like when they want to overthrow Western civilization with a massive invasion and population bomb. This is what it looks like. Sorry, this is next one here. Let's see. Here it is. Now, yeah, pretty amazing. So that was a counter protest, wasn't it, Lance?
Yeah, I saw something about that back when this was from a while ago when there was all the stuff of the rape report being initially released, and there was some small protests from British patriots. And
that's right. I think I cut you off when I tried to pull up that thing. Yeah, Keir Starmer said, we're not going to allow any of this stuff. So these guys are in through there yelling and screaming at people. But you're not allowed to yell and scream even if you're being raped. That's what came out of this rape report that was put out. You had people arrested for screaming too loudly when they were being raped. This is one lady here. She was arrested for screaming too loudly while being raped. Genuinely sounds like something an American right-winger would come up with as a parody of Britain. But it really happened. She was arrested in Nottinghamshire for breaching the peace because she was screaming too loudly. She had just been gang raped, and the cops didn't care about that. Right? This is the injustice of the peace, I guess we could say. She interrupted the peace by screaming, and they really don't care about that and one whit about it. Also, a French woman who was sexually assaulted by a Tunisian migrant could be sentenced to prison for incitement to racial hatred. During a TV discussion, she said the main danger for women in France is Black, African, and Arab migrant men. She was initially given a 6-month suspended sentence and a €3,000 fine. But she appealed the sentence with a new verdict expected later today, and I don't know the date on that was. Her attacker, however, is still at large. So don't you dare criticize people who attack you. Don't you dare point out the fact that this is endemic and an epidemic that is happening. It's endemic to this population group, and it is an epidemic of violence. You do that, they come after you. They don't come after the rapists that are there. Here's another example. A rape victim arrested. She publicly spoke about her life-shattering ordeal in the UK in this report, and then the British police arrested her for it within 30 minutes and sent her to prison. As one person said, it is absolutely beyond comprehension. She wrote a post on Facebook alleging she had been the victim of grooming gangs. The post went viral, and within a half hour, the police arrested her, and she was sent to prison. Yeah, don't expect the government to help you when they are part of forcing this multiculturalism down your throat. Why do we need multiculturalism? You might want to ask that woman who put that out. Let me just play that again for you, what she's talking about.
I think there's a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
And so the question is, what is it about Israel that is multicultural? Are they the least bit multicultural? How are they allowed to have a right to exist? We don't have a right to have our culture, our people live in a particular land. No, Ireland needs to be inundated with people from Gaza, says Jonathan Pollard. And this woman says that multiculturalism must take place. You're not going to be allowed to have monolithic populations. Why not? Why can't the French live in France? Do they not have a right to exist? Well, not according to the Jews. And she doesn't say, we're being blamed for this, but it's not our issue. She says, we're at the center of this. We're leading this, and people are going to blow back and blame us for this. And you should be blamed for it. I'm not going to back away from blaming these people because they deserve to be blamed for what they're doing to people. And when you look at this, this is another example. A French woman sexually assaulted by a Tunisian migrant faces prison for incitement to racial hatred. We mentioned that before. That's what she looks like. That's a picture of her. And so here's another example. Social services. You're going to call social services and say, this child is being abused. Here's a 13-year-old. And they contacted social services. They called a 13-year-old girl racist and recommended contraceptives to her instead of denouncing her Pakistani rapists. Tell a 13-year-old to get contraceptives because they're not going to do anything about the people raping you. And then there's this one. This is police returned a little girl back to her rapists and said, have fun with her. This is part of the Rape Gang Inquiry Report that's put out by Rupert Lowe, who is part of the Restore Party. Yeah, folks, this is way beyond reform. And frankly, what is happening here in America is way beyond reform as well. We need to figure out how we're going to undo this. But then I want to play this last one here for you. This is a situation. This is what true multiculturalism looks like when the government goes in and says, well, we have to have these new groups coming in, and we are going to put them in to control you. And so you have a situation where you got a couple of guys who come in, and first of all, they are in some kind of a quasi-government uniform. They're not exactly cops, but they're kind of ancillary people to them. And we've seen this type of situation before. It was one of these types of people. I think the other one was a female. And there was a woman who was singing Christian songs on the street corner. And they said, you can't do that. You got to go to a church building if you want to do that. You can't sing Christian songs out here in the open. And she said, why? And they got into an argument about it. And the woman was, not a native of the UK, not British. These guys are not either. And look at the very beginning of this. Before they start to threaten this guy, there's two of them. And one of them goes over to the other one and has him turn off his body camera. They don't realize it, but the guy who is recording them doesn't have a cell phone that he's holding up. He's got these Google glasses or Meta glasses or something like that. So he gets the entire thing, including the threats where they lean into and threaten him.
What were you going to do then? I don't need to tell you what I was going to do. This guy, fam, is coming man, no, it's off. What do you mean? Don't butt in.
Now it's off.
Listen, you know what you're doing, Ak. You know what you're doing.
Don't call me Ak, fam.
You know what you're doing.
You're trying to mess with our money.
I'm not messing with your money.
I'm going to show you something right now. Come to the alleyway right now. We'll just show you what time it is. We're going to show you what time it is, bro. We're going to make sure you can't work no more and earn no money because you're trying to butt in with our money. And, bruv, do you know what I do to people like that? Come here now. Come, let's go.
Why would I come there? Why would I come there?
Brother, don't come in the business. I swear, when I'm not in uniform, I'm going to knock you the fuck your teeth out. You know that? If I give you one punch, I'll knock all your teeth out. We've got people.
I don't know why you're getting aggressive.
Come across the road now because you're trying to mess with our money, bro.
I'm not trying to mess with your money.
I'm going to show you what time it is. Come now.
Nah, do your thing, man.
Call a police officer for you, he'll fuck you up, you know.
Why would a police officer fuck me up?
Because we work with them and you didn't know that, did you? So come across the road now because I'm going to show you what time it is.
Come across the road. So can I ask you a question then?
Bro, I ain't having no one disrupt my job, you know. Do I come and disrupt your money when you're painting and fucking decorating? I'll come and throw you through.
Sorry, I didn't clip this. We should have. I didn't realize that we had so many F-bombs in this, but this is the population bomb doing an F-bomb against the guy who was there. Let's talk about the state of what is happening here in America. Yeah, we just had a great decision that I wholeheartedly endorse. As Trump was sending in all these National Guard troops into Washington, D.C. and other places, There was a guy who said, "Oh, I'm going to protest this by following the National Guard troops around and playing The Empire Strikes Back on his cell phone." That got them very angry. As a matter of fact, the sergeant that was in charge of the guys that were marching around, and this guy was following him, he said, "Hey, you guys handle this." Well, they didn't handle it, and I guess he wanted his own guys to do something about it, but they didn't. Instead, what they did was they called the Washington Metropolitan Police, and their response was to come and handcuff him and to leave him sitting there for 40 minutes in handcuffs. So they didn't technically arrest him. They left him on the sidewalk for 40 minutes. He is now sued, and the Empire has struck out. They have to pay him $50,000 for playing this tune. I bet John Williams would get a kick out of that. He's getting a kick out of directing the Berlin Philharmonic, and I get a kick out of watching these guys. I love to watch live music from a symphony orchestra, especially when Williams is conducting. So you see,
got a pretty good performance fee with one iteration of.
You should call that a royalty, right? From people who think that they are dictators and kings, he got a royalty from them instead. And so the back and forth is still going on because they settled with him in terms of the city. The city gave him $50,000, but he has another lawsuit going against a sergeant who stuck the city on him. They said, well, we don't have the authority to arrest anybody. We call the police and they arrest whoever we tell them to. And so they started their lawsuit against him. They said, the law might have tolerated government conduct of this sort a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but today we have the First Amendment, which bars government officials from shutting down peaceful protests. The Fourth Amendment, along with the district's prohibition on false arrest, bars groundless seizures. So the video that was put on TikTok by the ACLU there in D.C. showed him standing on a street corner with his hands behind his back, surrounded by the police department's officers. He said it only took about 10 minutes of him following them around, playing the Imperial March before the Imperial arrest happened that was there. But
yeah, it's amazing that they think they could arrest someone for playing a song. What do they say? It's it's free speech, not free music. Or
well, they're going to have to pay the piper here, that's for sure. But the issue is, it's not just that they could arrest him, but folks, the Trump administration, and in particular Jeanine Pirro of Fox News, are the ones who are pushing this to fight, to say that we can arrest somebody who is peacefully protesting. Again, when we look at this, you go back to January the 6th, right? And I said, look, if there's somebody that destroyed property, somebody that attacked police officers, there are penalties for that. It doesn't mean that you go to jail for decades for any of that kind of stuff. That is excessive punishment, and that's wrong. There are some punishments that could be meted out to people, but there were most of the people that were there that were getting punished, harassed, having their lives turned upside down and destroyed, were peaceful protesters. How did the Republicans go from that to then cheering the fact that Jeanine Pirro, this embarrassment from Fox News along with Pete Hegseth, the fact that the Trump administration and these Fox News commentators would be doing this kind of stuff is pathetic. It is corrupt tyranny, just like Trump. These are the people that he has put in charge. And so when we look at what is happening and this is the heart of the people who are going to be grabbing all of this information about you. When we look at the data centers, and that's what we should really be concerned about. As a matter of fact, when you look at the data center collection, there was an interesting article on the Burning Platform where a person went back and compared what is there in Bluffdale, Utah, which used to be this gigantic thing. I remember when it happened. It was like in 2012 or something. I talked about it extensively. I had William Binney on, and we talked about it. Why would you put a data center out in the middle of the desert to collect all this stuff? Well, we don't have time today, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. It is the data center that they had could keep track of 100 years worth of data, not only on Americans, but on everybody worldwide. And now they're ramping this up to be 100 times larger because they're not just storing data. They're using it to come after us. Before we run out of time, I want to thank two more people who contributed on Zelle, Scott L., Baby Bear, and Kelly Ann M. Thank you so much. And thank you, Anthony. Really do appreciate it. It was a real lifesaver. Thank you for matching funds today. I really do appreciate that. Thank you, and have a good day. Thank you, all of you.
And
for your
thank you,
support.
Alien Poop Evolution, for the gifted subs on Kick.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that one. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you. The Common Man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity, created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at thedavidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. thedavidknightshow.com.